I think we have to admire the disciples of Jesus for being so practical. You know, the crowd has been with you all day. It's getting late. Before the stores closed, before the merchants pack up for the night, you better send them to get something to eat. Very practical. Realizing that the stores would be closing, and if they didn't get there soon, there would be nothing to eat. And what does Jesus do? He looks at them and probably says, yeah, you're right, on one level. But Jesus forces his disciples to look at things in a deeper level. You feed them. And I said, what, are you out of your mind? There's only 5 loaves, 2 fishes, and over 5,000 people? How are we going to feed them? And what Jesus does to them is challenges them to look beyond the now to the possibilities. Figure it out. Which meant that they probably had to put their heads together and said, how are we going to do this? And then they figured out. Number 1, I think because they worked together. Number 2, because they got out of their comfort zone. And 3, they knew that Jesus was challenging them to look beyond the moment. Many stories about what occurred. There's one theory is that when the disciples started to say, let's feed them, people began to pull things out of their bags. Oh, I have a piece of bread. I have this, I have that. And when you put it all together, it was enough to feed the many. You know, that's a good theory, and we're not sure if that was really the truth. But on the other hand, too, Jesus said the blessing, broke the bread, and then gave it to the disciples who distributed it. Do you ever think of a miracle? We live in a society that no longer, I believe, believes in miracles. And what Jesus is telling us to do is look beyond the ordinary. Look beyond what is here. Miracles still happen. And there was probably, I think there was a book written about that, but miracles still happen. And as a result, people began to look at their ministry in a different way. Sure, send them to the stores. Send them to the baker, send them to the butcher, send them to the fishmonger, send them to the towns and the cities around, and they'll have enough to eat. But when Jesus evoked the inner resources of the people, the best of them came out. And as a result, people were fed. The challenge, I believe, in today's gospel is that, yes, be practical. We can't solve all the world's problems. But when we begin to use our inner resources for the good of everybody, then things can happen. We can change people. We can change the world. We can change most of all ourselves. To look beyond the present to that inner being of us that challenges us to look at life in a different way. Consequently, each and every one of our lives, spiritual lives, will be deepened. Our faith will be enhanced. We will bring out the best that was in each one of us and make things possible. I believe it was a miracle that occurred that day. That was one thing. But the other miracle that occurred is that people began to think beyond themselves. When we begin to think beyond ourselves and look to our others and use the resources of others, that's the other thing too. They probably had to figure, well, what do you have? What do you have? What do you have? And evoked that generosity from others. What can happen in our lives if we are open to God's Spirit leading us in a direction that does not only the good for others, but also makes us better people. Yeah, Heinen's closes later today. What are we going to get? But the other thing, too, is that what resources do I have within me that are going to bring out the best in you and in me? That's the miracle of today's gospel. When we feed everybody because of who we are as God's children.